Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Margarita and today I'm here to bring you my March wrap-up. So March was a really good reading month. I read 14 things and they all range between 3 and 5 stars, so I would say that's pretty good. I did not read any books that I hated. I started a few books that I didn't like and I DNF'd, but that's not bad. So let's just talk about some books, shall we? The first book that I have to talk about is The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss. And this book is supposed to take all of those gothic, they're not fairy tales, but like the gothic characters. Why can't I think of them? The gothic classic characters of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Dr. Moreau, all of those. It's supposed to take those concepts and kind of gender bend them, and it's about those men doing all these experiments on their daughters and what that means and stuff like that. And it follows Mary Jekyll, who's trying to solve what really happened to her father and what happened to her mom and stuff in the wake of her mother's death. Her dad died a lot longer ago, and she's trying to, uncover all these things. She's working with Sherlock Holmes, and all these mysteries start to take place. These women are ending up murdered. All these prostitutes are ending up murdered on the streets of London, and she somehow is part of, solving that mystery, and it just takes place that way. The whole premise is really, really interesting, and I liked the idea. What did not work for me at all is like you'll be reading and then there are little parts like here where the characters interject and start talking in the middle of the book, and that just drew me out of the book so much, and I would actually get really angry whenever those parts came up. Supposedly it's supposed to be in there so you can like tell who they are as people and whatever, but that did not need to be in there. I found it really annoying. I thought maybe that would work better as an audiobook part, if you had a cast of different characters, but also I think that would have pissed me off then. It really did not add anything to this book. It could have been left out. I would have enjoyed the book infinitely more. That part just really, really bothered me about the book. Not a fan of that. But that being said, I still gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it for the most part. It was a good read. Just that one little part really, really pissed me off. The next book I'm going to talk about, I don't have it with me, and that is Legendary Ladies, 50 Goddesses to Empower and Inspire You by Anne Shen. I also gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. It's really cool. It is like graphic novel-esque, where there is an illustration of the goddess and then a little bit about that goddess, and pray to this goddess if you need help changing your life or something like that. So the variety of goddesses and like religions was very good. I enjoyed that. There were Celtic goddesses, Egyptian, Hindu, Asian goddesses and stuff, and I really enjoyed all of that. However, that being said, I think that it barely scratched the surface for some of these goddesses. Like, I love the goddess Artemis. She's my did I say goddess? Goddess Artemis, and she's my favorite goddess. And when I was reading stuff about her, I was like, this is like the stupidest shit you could be talking about when it comes to her. You could talk about so much cooler stuff. So I just feel like that book is really good if you want to learn about new goddesses, but it's not good if you actually want to know about them, if that makes sense. You can go do research about them later, but it was okay. For what it was okay. Also, I would not recommend reading that as an ebook, which is what I did. I think the physical book would be a lot better and more enjoyable of a read, but I got it from Libby, so it is what it is. The next book that I'm going to talk about is The Girl Who Circumvented Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making by Catherine M. Valente. This is a middle grade book about a little girl, September, who goes to Fairyland and how she has to save Fairyland from this horrible person that's ruling, and all the horrible things that this person has done to Fairyland. And it was good. It was whimsical, it was magical, it was nice. It was not anything that, knocked my socks off, but I enjoyed it for the most part. Also gave this 3 out of 5 stars. The next book that I have to talk about is Thetropic of Serpents by Marie Brennan. This is the second book in the Memoirs of Lady Trent series. This I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I was a little bit disappointed because it was not so much about the dragons as it was about political intrigue, which, you know, is good and fine and everything's great with that. However, I'm reading this series for dragons. Like, I want to know all about the dragons. Tell me every single little detail about the dragons, because what I really like is that she's supposed to be a biologist studying dragons. So it's like, give me all that nerdy information. I love it. But it was... So that's why it only got 3 out of 5 stars. I still enjoy it. I still plan on carrying on with the series. I have like the other 3 books back there. But it's starting to go off on a side that it's like, well, that's cool and all, but dragons, please. The dragons were more of a side note, which I didn't really appreciate because I want to know about dragons. What can you blame me? So let's see. The next book that I have to talk about is Wanda Scott Ties the Knot by Tessa Dare. This is the 3rd book in the Castle Ever Afters series that she has. I think it was originally a trilogy, but now there's like another book in it. And this follows our main character, Madeline, who, when she was younger, she has horrible social anxiety. I mean, like, horrible. So when she was younger, instead of being presented, she made up this lie that she fell in love with this Scottish captain, Mackenzie, and, you know, they got engaged, and then he went off to war, and then he died in war, and like, she's writing letters back and forth to herself because Mackenzie is a made-up person. Well, 10 years later, guess who comes knocking at the castle door in Scotland? Hey, it's me, your boo, Logan Mackenzie. So, and he knows that everything is a lie because in the letter she's like, I just made you up, blah, blah, blah. She never really expects there to be that person. And so it's their love story. I just like Tessa Dare's love stories. I think they're really cute. They're historical romances. I mean, by no means are they wonderful works of fiction, but I thought it was really fun. I read that for the I read that in the Fairyland book for the Buzzword Readathon, and I really enjoyed it. So the next book that I gave that 3 out of 5 stars also. I don't remember if I said. Sorry, my brain's all over the place. It's been a crazy day. The next book that I read was Avatar: The Last Airbender, North and South, Part 1, and I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. It was really good. I really loved Avatar: The Last Airbender, so it was really cool to see like where everybody is after the series ends, and I just really liked it. It follows Katara and oh my god, what's her brother's name? Sokka, and their shenanigans down south, and I really liked it so far, and I will continue on with the series. I got that from Hoopla, so I will, you know, continue to read the series slowly through Hoopla. The next book that I have to talk about is The Child Finder by Renee Denfield. This is a book about our main character, what's her name? Naomi. And she is a child finder. She is someone who, the only thing that she does is find out what happens to children when they go missing. Whether they're murdered, whether they're kidnapped, whatever it is, she goes and she finds them. So our other main character, Madison Culver, went missing 3 years ago, and her parents reach out to Naomi and ask her, you know, please, can you help us try and find our daughter? She's been missing for 3 years. They went to cut it down a Christmas tree, I believe, and she disappears in the woods, and they don't know what happened. So everybody thinks, you know, this happened 3 years ago in the dead of winter on this mountain where, you know, the snow never melts, not even in the summertime. So they're all assuming that she's dead. You find out really quickly in the book she's not dead. She's been taken, and this book is really good, but it's also incredibly hard because you are dealing with that, you know, kidnapped child, and you're dealing with Naomi's past because she was also one of those children who went missing and mysteriously shows up. She doesn't remember her past, and that's why this is the job that she has, is because she feels that she needs to find someone and she can't figure out who that is. Anyway, all of that dynamic in there. And of course the kidnapped child thing is so sad and it's so hard to read. And then it gets even harder because when you start to learn about the kidnapper, I mean, it's one of those really tough books to read, as in tough subject matter. The actual reading was fine. The thing about this, instead of The Enchanted, which was the first book she wrote, and it was about people on death row, is that this doesn't have the enchantment factor that The Enchanted did. This was basically like this shitty situation, like constantly. There was nothing magical and whimsical and, you know, nothing to kind of take that horribleness and diminish it a little bit. So it was really hard to read, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I think if it had that whimsy factor, it would have been a little bit of a higher rating, because just reading stuff like this, it really drags you down. There's like, nobody's gonna read this and be like, oh my god, that was the best book, in the sense that like the subject matter was great. It sucks. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. I enjoyed this. It was good. Gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Still like The Enchanted a little bit better though. But I think there's going to be a sequel to this, and I will pick it up if there is, because it wasn't horrible. It was just tough to read. The next book is Between the World and Me by Tansy Coates, and this is, I read this as an audiobook, and I highly recommend the audiobook because he narrates it himself. And this is basically what it's like to be a Black person in America, and I believe he's writing this for his son. Oh, there are pictures in here, which you don't get in the audiobook, obviously. Oh, that's pretty cool. So I really enjoyed this. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I don't agree with everything that he says, but that being said, I'm obviously not a Black person in America, so there's certain things that I don't understand or I can't necessarily connect with, but I think that he puts things in a way that it's easy to understand most of what he's saying and to see like the logic in it. Instead of someone just like yelling at you, he actually gives you like, this is why I think this, and this is why I think that, and this is, and it all makes sense. And I really appreciate that. And this really opened up my eyes to a lot of things that I have never realized or even thought about necessarily when it comes to race. So I appreciate this book, and I liked it. 4 out of 5 stars. Again, I highly recommend the audiobook. It was really good, and I think it was like a 5-hour audiobook. It's not long. The next book that I have to talk about is If They Come For Us by Fatima Ashgar, and this is a poetry collection about this woman. I believe she's an orphan. Anyway, it's about the experience of being a young Pakistani Muslim woman in contemporary America. Orphaned as a child, Fatima Ashgar grapples with coming of age and navigating questions of sexuality and race without the guidance of a mother or a father. And it's really great. Again, there are some of these that went over my head because I don't know a lot of Pakistani culture and like history and stuff. So there were certain things that I did not understand. I need to do more research about, and then, you know, I'll probably understand certain poems better. But I did really enjoy this, and I highly recommend it. 4 out of 5 stars. We're almost done. I'm almost done. The next book that I have to talk about is Bygone Badass Broads, 52 Forgotten Women Who Changed the World by Mackenzie Lee. And I thought this was so much fun. Again, this is in the same idea of The Legendary Ladies, where it is a picture of one of these women and then a story about them and what they did and what makes them a badass broad. And I just really liked it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really want to own it. Again, I read this as an ebook, and I think that reading it physically would be such a great experience. And there were so many awesome women in there, and it's not just like American women, it's women from all over the world, all different points in history. Definitely read it if you get the chance. It's totally worth it. Oh, and we have 3 more books, so we're almost done. The next book that I have to talk about, I started and finished last night. and that is The Princess Saves Herself in this one by Amanda Lovelace. I gave this 4.5 stars, and basically this is about Amanda Lovelace and her, you know, her life, and how she goes from being the princess and the damsel in distress to being the queen. And it's just, I found it very empowering. There were certain things that I definitely connected to. I mostly rate poetry based off of how I connect to the stories and whether or not I feel them. It's a very personal thing for me. I know a lot of people don't necessarily like this, but I loved it. I could connect with a lot of the themes and a lot of the poems in here, and I appreciate this. Thank you for writing it, Amanda, because I liked it. So that was 4 out of 5 stars. The next 4.5 out of 5 stars, excuse me. The next book that I have to talk about, I'm so upset that it took me so long to read, but oh my god, it's so amazing. And that is The Angel's Game by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. This is the loose second book in the Cemetery of Forgotten Books. They're all companion novels. They're not necessarily like direct sequels, because this one takes place before Shadow of the Wind ever occurs. Sorry, pollen. And I had held off on this book because I had read Marina by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, and it was so bad. It was nothing like The Shadow of the Wind, and I just did not want to be disappointed again. But I read this as an audiobook, and oh my gosh, let me tell you, this was absolutely wonderful. It was whimsical, the writing was beautiful, I loved everything about it. It's so good. I highly recommend that you read it if you liked The Shadow of the Wind. It's really, really good. Gothic Barcelona, that creep factor, it's all there. It's so good. Okay, so I also gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was just so good. The next and last book that I have to talk about is Hillbilly Elegy, a memoir of a family and culture in crisis by J.D. Vance. This book was fabulous. I also read this as an audiobook, and again, highly recommend the audiobook because J.D. Vance actually narrates the audiobook. It's so good. So basically, this is the life of J.D. Vance and how he comes from being a hillbilly to, you know, a Yale Law School graduate, and, you know, how certain things in his life have shaped him into who he is. And he would not be who he is without his grandparents, who really shaped his life and meant everything to him. And it talks about the culture of hillbillies because they're completely different. There's one part where, you know, his grandparents are going Christmas shopping with their son when he's little. I mean, JD's not even born yet. And someone tells the kid, you know, you get out of the store, you're not allowed. So when the parents come, they're like, fuck that shit. They destroy the store. They threaten to kill the guy, and then they go off shopping like nothing ever happened. And it explains why that culture is the way that it is. And it's just so good. And I really highly, highly recommend this. It was very, very interesting. I got this, or my mom got this as a gift, and she was reading it and telling me all about it. So I was like, fine, I'll look for it on Libby. And I found the audiobook, and highly recommend it. 5 out of 5 stars. Please read it if it sounds like you might be interested. It's so good. So good. So those are all of the books that I read in the month of March. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of these books, your thoughts and opinions on these books, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!